Man, a fee. Man, a fee? Do I really have to pay that? Ah, man. A fee. Okay, this is stupid.
It's kind of crazy thinking about the playground rumors we used to fall for in Pokemon. Stuff like beating the Elite Four 30 times in a row with just a Kakuna, just to see if we maybe unlock a crazy mythical.
But it makes sense why we fell for these things like trying to track down Pika-Blue or Mew 3, because Pokemon itself is built upon the mystique of following oddly specific steps to make the legends and myths of the world appear, whether it's done intentionally with stuff like the Regi puzzles, or unintentionally with stuff like the Void glitch. For every Mew not actually being under the truck, there's a Trainer Fly Mew glitch that actually works. And that's one of the reasons why Pokemon is so magical to me. No other game would make me want to actually try to go on these absurd adventures. And believe me, the journey we're about to go on feels exactly like one of those things. Because getting that Kakuna into the Hall of Fame 30 times actually means something. It's merely the beginning of an insane process that will give us a new way to do one of the most tedious shiny hunts in Pokemon history. The hunt for shiny Manaphy. This is no playground rumor, it's all real. First, let's talk about the traditional way to hunt for shiny Manaphy. In all of Pokemon history, shiny Manaphy has only ever been available through Manaphy eggs in the Generation 4 games. And hold the phone, these are not regular eggs you can go get from the daycare center. The only way to legitimately obtain a Manaphy egg is through one of the 3 Pokemon Ranger spin-off games, and this presents a challenge in its own right. Each cartridge of Pokemon Ranger, Shadows of Almia, or Guardian Signs can only transfer 1 Manaphy egg, and then even if you delete your save file, it will never be able to transfer one again. Unlocking the mission that lets you transfer the egg is also kind of a challenge in its own right, because in Shadows of Almia and Guardian Signs, it was only available over Wi-Fi for a limited time, like horses.
Horses are back for a limited time.
Because of this, most people resort to the original Pokemon Ranger, because the Manaphy mission can be obtained at any time with just a simple password, unless you're playing the Japanese version where you're extra out of luck because it was only ever distributed over local wireless for a movie promotion. Finding a copy that hasn't transferred its egg already is a Herculean task in 2024, but thankfully, I lied, it's not actually a requirement. It's not like there's a piece of hardware in it that permanently breaks when the Manaphy egg is transferred. Really, it's just a software flag that gets set on the save file that deleting your save in-game doesn't reset. Factory resetting the save file or restoring a previous save through external means will let you start over completely and transfer another Manaphy egg. This makes me happy because on my childhood copy of Ranger, I transferred my one and only Manaphy egg to my sister before I knew there would be only one. I did this on the release day of Diamond and Pearl in America. Its name is Cello and it still lives on happily. But now I can say Cello to my own Manaphy egg on this cartridge. But anyway, that's the first hurdle, and we haven't even gotten to the actual shiny hunting part. The next hurdle is that on the Pokemon save that receives the Manaphy egg, it's shiny locked. But only for your trainer, thanks to how eggs work. Basically, every Pokemon has a value attached to it called a PID. And every trainer has 2 numbers known as a Trainer ID and Secret ID. What determines whether or not a Pokemon is shiny is based on an operation that's performed between the PID and the Trainer ID and Secret ID. And it works out in these games that every Pokemon has a 1 in 8192 chance of being shiny because of this. From the moment it's generated, our Manaphy egg also has a PID, one that the game guarantees will never result in a shiny for the original trainer. But since a hatched egg takes on the Trainer ID and Secret ID of the trainer who hatches it, we can trade our Manaphy egg to a different save file, hatch it, and have a real chance at the Manaphy hatching as a shiny. But in modern games this works differently, so in Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl the Manaphy egg event is effectively shiny locked. So yeah, draw those circles, we're still playing Pokemon Ranger. So basically, we need a save file where this Manaphy egg will hatch as shiny when we trade it to it. You can either achieve this through RNG manipulation, which is totally valid, but not my own style. Or if you're a thrill seeker looking for a hunt, we try to naturally stumble upon one. Continuously creating new save files, playing up until the point where you can trade, and checking to see if the Manaphy hatches as shiny on that file. People have actually gotten it this way, and they've done wild optimizations to it, involving multiple consoles, multiple Manaphy eggs, sometimes even unwanted shiny starters. I have nothing but utmost respect for anyone who's ever gotten Manaphy this way, and I don't want to downplay their accomplishments. In fact, I want to play them up because they're far stronger than me and could probably beat me up. So please don't beat me up when I say that I didn't really feel like doing the new file and trading part. Maybe I will one day when I'm much stronger. So that's where this new method comes in. With this new method, I'm gonna just be using one Manaphy egg and one save file. We won't be changing anything about the egg, but we'll be changing our actual trainer ID and secret ID by shuffling it around and effectively disguising ourselves as a different trainer every reset, as if we traded it to a new file. We'll still have the thrill of a shiny hunt with this. But now, disclaimer, the glitches we're going to use to accomplish this are actually so powerful that we could theoretically just generate a technically legal shiny Manaphy out of thin air. And Trails Pokemon actually has an excellent video on that, which will explain many of these steps better than I will. But I personally still wanted to keep most of this hunt as authentic as possible. So the only thing we're using arbitrary code execution for, which I'll explain later, is shuffling our trainer ID and secret ID. So I guess before I start to explain those steps, we need a Manaphy egg from Pokemon Ranger.
What's up, guys? I'm here at Ocean. And here at Ocean, we're going to retrieve this Manaphy egg.
Ooh.
In Pokemon Ranger. Get ready to draw some circles, y'all.
I'm ready.
We're gonna draw a lot of circles.
So on April 10th, I set out to play Pokemon Ranger for the first time since Christmas of 2006. Most of it went pretty well, but it was also kinda rough sometimes. Like not realizing that if you hadn't saved in an hour and 30 minutes and theoretically lose to a boss Pokemon, you have to go back and do that all again. Some of the bosses in this game were a little bit tougher than I remembered too. Maybe it's not so hard to find a Ranger copy that hasn't transferred a Manaphy before, since you have to beat the game first, and not every 10-year-old's gonna be able to do this.
And look, we unlocked Ranger Net. All right, what we do is we hold down R, X, and left. Look at the plus on mine and moving. Enter a password has been added.
Then you put in this password if you're playing the USA version of the game, and you unlock the Manaphy mission, which should not take long to finish. Now here's where I made a mistake. If you transfer it directly to the file that's going to do the shuffling, when we hatch the egg with a different trainer ID and secret ID, the game will look at it as a traded egg. But since it was never traded, there's going to be no metadata that matches up. So you want to transfer it to a different file initially and trade it over, so the Pokemon can have the proper trade data to display this instead on the summary screen. I realized this too late, so I didn't actually use my Manaphy egg from this Ranger playthrough. I used a different one. I used my original Manaphy egg from Guardian Signs from 2011 that I've just been keeping as part of my living decks on Heart Gold. Now that we got the egg situation all resolved, we need to set up the actual file that we're going to be doing the crazy glitching on. And that has to either be in Diamond or Pearl. And I highly recommend doing this on an English copy of the game because currently the ID shuffling stuff that we have is only written out for the English version of the game, though I'm sure it is possible for other languages. Pretty much any save file works. I'm using one that I beat over 10 years ago. But I advise you don't use one that's too sentimental to you, since you will be losing a lot of items, and I also advise that you make a backup in case you mess things up. It's at this point that we're going to set up data in a very specific way so that we can trick the game into running it as scripts and code, in what's known as arbitrary code execution. I know it sounds intimidating, but researchers have been working on this for years, and we have a very human viable setup for it now. If you can follow instructions, you can do it too. You can do this. There's only one frame perfect input. I believe in you. It's not supposed to make sense. So here's everything that we have to do, and I'll try my best to give little explanations as to why. Half this setup will be setting up the code that we actually want to run. Most of this is just made up of jump instructions that keep jumping us to different parts in the game's memory until we reach an actually useful part, the .artist Poketch app, where we can write our real code that we want to run. And the other half of it is the meticulous setup for actually tricking the game into running this as code, which is basically the sickest bike trick of all time. So first we need to set up the Hall of Fame data. The game stores up to 30 Hall of Fame clears, and the only ones that we care about for this code are the final 3 in slots 28 through 30. And we need one particular Pokemon for this. Kakuna, which in Diamond and Pearl is only unfortunately available through putting Leaf Green in the second slot and going to Eterna Forest. You can also just trade one in or transfer one, but if this isn't an option for you and you don't have another game, you could either run a custom GTS server or do a different path that I have linked in the description with an RNG'd Gyarados with a specific PID. So now that we have our Kakuna, let's beat the Pokemon League 30 times. You know, maybe not. Let's actually just use the Void Glitch for this. Remember, for the first 27 Hall of Fame slots, we can do whatever we want. You don't have to use the Kakuna for this. But I did, and here's how. We're going to do some special bike movements in a certain spot in Jubilife City known as tweaking, which messes with how the game loads in map data. In this exact spot in Jubilife City, this is the slow bike method, where we have our bike in the slower gear and it's a little bit easier to pull off. If you follow these exact movements right here, we're going to navigate into this grassy area that normally isn't there. And if you stop in this exact spot and open either your party or the Pokédex, it'll refresh the game's graphics and show us where we really are, allowing us to press down and enter the Pokédex Company building in a way that we're not normally able to. Now we are in the void. Now we're going one step south, 17 steps to the west. Be sure to use your Pokédex step counter app for this and follow this step exactly, because you don't want to mess up. 14 steps to the north here. Messing up in the void could risk your save file. Oh my gosh, I messed up. Don't try that at home, folks. Okay, and now we go 63 to the west. Just keep following this path exactly. Take a deep breath, stay calm. Once you've hit that 63rd step, save. And we're going to have to reset the game here. After it saves. Don't do it while saving. When the game reloads, we're going to take one step to the west and then save and reset again. Then, you take another step to the left. And you've done it. You've become the champion now with the Kakuna. Then you're going to have to repeat this process as many times as it takes for you to reach the 28th Hall of Fame slot. I had to do this 26 times in one night, and it took like a couple hours. While I was going through this process, I got an interview with Elite Four Aaron about how he feels about this.
What? No. Dude, how do you keep getting into my webcam? No, stop!
I think I got the wrong Aaron. For our 28th Hall of Fame record, we need to get into the DS's settings and set the date to December 23rd, 2022. Bear in mind, this will be different if you're doing the Gyarados setup. This wasn't just a random day that was found by accident, this was intentionally found out based on the instruction that we want to run in the game. After this, for record 29, we need to go down a day to December 22nd and do things the same way. For both of these, we need to have only Kakuna in our party. Then record 30 is a little bit more lax. It can be any day, but we need to make sure we have Kakuna in the first slot of our party. Now we're finally done dethroning Cynthia, and we can move on and do something else in this setup. I'm sure there are no hard feelings.
Hey everyone, totally Cynthia here. Yeah, we have no idea how he slipped by and just became the champion like that. He took my job with a Kakuna. I don't know. I don't know. I can't do this. I can't do this.
Now we need some Pokédex apps. If you bring a naive nature Pokemon and a serious nature Pokemon to the most inconvenient house ever made in Sunny Shore City where this guy says something completely objectively untrue, you get the Dot Artist and Calendar Pokédex apps. And after beating Fantina from the Pokédex Company president, you get the Link Searcher app. The calendar setup is important too for the code that we need to run, so we need to mark the 2nd, the 4th, the 9th through the 12th, and the 14th through the 24th, no matter what month it is. As long as these dates are marked, it should work. Now it's Dot Artist time. From the script conversion site link in the description, you can search for ASC Bootstrap and see exactly the pattern that you need to copy into your game. I'm also showing it on screen right now. You need to be very careful with this and make sure every dot is in the correct place. This could take a little bit. Now it's item bag setup. We need to get rid of every TM, so we only have HMs in our bag. Sell them, use them, throw them away, everything must go. In the medicine pocket, we need to buy enough Paralyze heals to have 412 of them. And then we need to get rid of everything else in that pocket. Now that looks normal. The ball pocket should only have 2 items in it. 28 of any ball followed by 5 great balls. That's it. The mail pocket should be empty. And any of the other pockets that I didn't mention can have whatever they want in them. You'll also need some escape ropes or a Pokemon with the move Dig. And you'll also need to buy a Silk Scarf from the Veilstone Game Corner. Now we need 3 Pokemon to set up our bike trick. specifically a Noctowl, a Machoke, and a Cacturn. Any of these will work, but they need to be these species, and these are very important, and I'll explain later. We gotta give Noctowl that silk scarf from earlier too. You need to have used the Explorer's Kit at least once and gone through the cutscene with Rourke there, and you need to have gone to the contest hall in Hearthome City at least once to go through the Tuxedo cutscene. This is going to be important because we're going back to the Void, and if either of these play in there, it crashes the game.
And now, you can close your DS for a minute, take a nice deep breath. You've finished all the wacky setup for this. Now we have to go on another crazy Void route. And let me try and explain what we're doing now. First, we need to understand what this black void really is. Well, honestly, the best way to describe it is that the void is RAM, the game's running memory, being interpreted as map data while you're running across it. And since it is the game's active memory, running across it influences what the void is, and we can theoretically go wherever we want in the game with it. But that's it. It's just map data. We can't run any scripts unless the scripts just happen to be tied to being in the map, like the Hall of Fame script from earlier when we walked into that map. How are we going to use this to run our custom code? That's where a really special place comes in, Pal Park. And Pal Park holds one of the most important buttons and glitches in the entire game, the retire button.
The retire button exists in two places in the game. The Great Marsh, where it's directly tied to a script, and Pal Park, where instead of being directly tied to a script, it just runs the fourth script tied to the current map ID. So if we go into Pal Park in the Void, start the cutscene, and get the retire button added to our menu, suddenly we can run the fourth script in any map ID that we want by traversing the Void. And if we run it in a map where there are less than 4 scripts, we are executing random garbage data. We're going to focus on map 332, which is normally used for wireless communications. If we hit the retire button here, the garbage data is stuff that we can actually control, which goes back to our whole setup with the Hall of Fame data and everything. So, we need to hit retire on this map in the Void after going through Pal Park. But that's easier said than done, because on the international versions of the game, you can't open the menu in map 332. And we're gonna achieve that by making a bike ramp. Yeah, like these bike ramps right here. There's a weird trick called ledge canceling, where if you wind up on one of these bike ramps without actually gaining the momentum to go on there beforehand, usually through something like walking through walls, there's one frame where you can open the menu while the ramp is moving you. And if we were to do that on the edge of a map where we can open the menu and ledge cancel into map 332 where we normally can't, we can hit retire and run our code. That's what this Void route will be setting up.
So, that's great and all, but what does this have to do with Manaphy? Nothing. Yet. But we'll get there. Part of our first dot artist script will be setting up an NPC who will run whatever we want in the dot artist, anytime we want, so this is the only time we'll ever have to do all this retire and void stuff. So let's just get through it. Alright, we're about to take a Baja deep dive into the Void right now.
With Noctowl, followed by Machoke, followed by Cacturn, we're going to tweak into the Poketch building and start this route. We go 1 step south, 16 steps to the east. You press Y to use your bicycle. Go north 430 steps. And then go 1 step to the west. Then we save, and we hard reset. Don't do any sort of soft reset combo, literally turn off your system and turn it back on. Now, we head 352 steps south, and then 1 step east. Now we're going to use our Explorer Kit, and then say no to it. This saves the set of coordinates that we're standing at right now for a wrong warp later. Now we go 416 steps north, and 192 steps east. Then we save, and once again, hard reset. Turn off your system and turn it back on. Upon reloading, we go 214 steps to the west and 479 steps south. Then, open the menu and open either your party or Pokédex to reload the graphics. Hold down, then you're going to do it again. Eventually you'll be through the walls. You'll want to talk to the Union Room attendant in the middle of the Pokemon Center here. Talking to her from this angle is supposed to save our coordinates for where we warp after entering the Union Room, but because we're not at valid coordinates, it'll go back to where we set our Explorer Kit earlier. After the game saves, we do another hard reset. We've reached the first checkpoint here. From here, you might have to retry this a couple times, because due to the way the memory gets shuffled, we're not guaranteed to see our code run when we hit retire. But if you keep trying from this point, you will eventually get it. Now this is going to be strange, but we need to wait for the white Pokemon logo to appear on the top screen when we reboot the game before we press the A button. This helps load things in the right way. If you're astute, you'll notice this is exactly where we used the Explorer Kit earlier. Now we need to head 64 steps south. I actually overshot it by a few steps here, don't try that at home, it still worked out though. Take one step west and we're going to use an escape rope. Or if you brought a fourth Pokemon with Dig, use that. And we'll be back in Jubilife City, except our head will be in a door. The whole point of this section here is to run back to the Pokemon Center, go to the PC, and view the Hall of Fame data. Because we need to keep this Hall of Fame data loaded in memory so we can run it as code. And when we reset the game, it removes it from memory. And now because of what we set up in the Union Room, we can also go upstairs and it will immediately take us back into the Void. Then we take 4 steps west and 18 steps south to put us back in the Mystery Zone. Now we're going to carefully navigate by continuously tapping the Poketch icon until we land on app number 14, the Link Searcher, and we're going to use it to crash the game. This works because the game detects that we're out of bounds in a mystery zone and will reload our previous save, which sounds counterintuitive. But since we're not reloading it the normal way with a full reset, we can keep the Hall of Fame data loaded in. And now we can take our Void route to where we're going to make our bike ramp. Grab some popcorn. We're going 5,279 steps south. This'll take a few minutes.
Hey everyone! I'm still in a video!
La 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 la. Matt, what are you doing void glitching through my house?
You might see a few exotic sights like this water along the way.
John McCain's not dead. He's in the void.
The void? Like from void jumpers? You know, the void is concerningly easy to get to so long as you have a bike. It's also the key to a whole bunch of stuff like glitches in Gen 4 and inserting yourself into other people's videos so you can do a book ad without their knowledge. I'm not supposed to be here. It's only a matter of time before he realizes this bit's gone on for too long and edits me out of the video. He can cut me off at any moment. Ah!
Alright, now we go 415 steps west. Then you're going to open your Pokemon Party menu and you're going to have to act quickly now. Close the menu, close the field menu, and go 1 step south. If you did things fast enough, you're in Pal Park now. Otherwise, go north and try again. And then we'll go 1 north and 100 west. We've now successfully gotten the retire button added to our menu. All that's left to do is to make our crazy bike ramp. Now here's where our Pokemon finally come in here. Each of these species correspond to map IDs. We're going to use Noctowl's map to set us up into Machoke's map, where there's a perfect bike ramp for us to go into Cacturn's map, which is 332. That's where we want to hit retire. First, make sure your bike is in fast gear. It'll make a tling sound that goes up whenever you press the B button beforehand. Now we go 1 west. Open our party and see that Noctowl's in the first slot. Then quickly, we need to go 1 west and 1 south to enter Vista Lighthouse. If you fail, you go 1 north and 1 east and try again. Then we open our party again and swap Machoke to the first slot. So now we're about to go into Machoke's map. Then we go 1 west and open our party once more for the moment of truth. We move Cacturn to the first slot of our party, perfectly positioning us on a bike ramp, meaning that the next time we close the field menu, we will be jumping into map number 332. That means we have to double press X, frame perfect, to close the menu and immediately reopen it the next frame. This is the one frame perfect trick of this whole thing. The screen will go black, and now we wait 5 seconds before we press A to see if it worked. So far so good, but now the real moment of truth is when we back out of this menu and press the retire button to see if we run our code by hitting the Hall of Fame data, by hitting the items in the backup save, by hitting the Poketch apps and eventually going to the .artist Poketch apps in the live save to see if we ran our code.
I did it! I did it! Let's go!
This is it. This is the culmination of so many years of research and extreme extensive knowledge of this game to be able to pull off a trick that feels like nothing short of a miracle. Our wildest imaginations can now come true in this game anytime we want. This script warped us to the Pokemon Center and changed the event ID for Nurse Joy so that she can execute any .artist scripts that we want at any time. They don't pay her enough. Oh, and if it didn't take you to the Pokemon Center and that didn't work, you're gonna have to turn off the game and go back to that checkpoint and try again from that point. This is something that is totally random by how the memory is shuffled, so it might just take a few tries, but if you keep trying, it will eventually work. And remember, the 10 minutes it takes to get there is shorter than a Manaphy reset the old way. There are also some drawbacks to our Nurse Joy here. Every time you boot up the game, you have to view the Hall of Fame data before you can run code with her. And also, you're kind of trapped here. But that's where another .code.retire made comes in handy, for Mr. Postman.
Mr. Postman.
Also, why does every Diamond and Pearl Sprite Dump online not have this guy in it? He must live completely off the grid. He must be completely undetectable. I don't understand. Anyway, our next step is to go back to the script conversion website and look up the Mystery Gift ASE bootstrap. Then we're going to be copying this really big picture into our .artist. Be sure you're clicking on the big green part, and that you're doing this in your proper language of choice from the upper right corner. Once you got that done, we're going to check out our Hall of Fame, and then talk to Nurse Joy to execute the code. Don't be surprised if you don't hear any sound effects when you do this. Now we're going to go to a Pokemart and make another code to test to see if it worked. This is the second script on the page, the Postman check. If you put this in and then talk to him, you should hear a victory tone.
We did it this time, there we go.
Now this guy can easily run our dot codes every reset without even having to check the Hall of Fame data.
Now, we're finally at the Manaphy part! So there's one more .artist code that we need to copy in. And it's a code that I just asked Retire one day if it was possible. Retire was like, yeah. And in just a couple days, there was a new code added to the script conversion website. The Trainer ID Secret ID Randomizer code. We just punch this baby in, and every time we talk to the Pokemart guy now, we get a different Trainer ID Secret ID.
So now if we walk around with our Manaphy egg up to the point where it's maybe just a couple steps away from hatching and save in front of this guy, in a matter of just 40 seconds per reset, we can talk to this guy at the beginning of the reset to change our Trainer ID and Secret ID to something totally random, take a couple steps, and hatch the Manaphy egg. Now, it will never show up as shiny on the hatch screen if you got it from a Ranger game, because it's displayed how it would be displayed for the original trainer on the hatch screen in Generation 4, and since it was shiny locked, it'll never show up shiny here. So we have to check its shininess on the actual summary screen every reset. And we just keep repeating this process until we get it shiny. A few people have been brave enough to also set this up and get it, like Nora in the Future, who got it during the PM7 24-hour Sinnoh video. I did most of this hunt on stream throughout most of April, May, and June, but of course during an offline session after stream one night, I managed to get it in July. Now finally, we finished the 27 minutes of intro to this shiny hunting video. Enjoy the suspense leading up to the encounter.
I'm just gonna take a quick pick of this.
Wait, that's my shirt.
Right, and fingers crossed, I'm just gonna throw a ball. 1, 2, 3. Oh, we got it! Oh, I can't believe we got that. That's like, it is kind of 5% here, 10%, 5%. Yes, we are gonna name Pandora. I'm currently watching Absolblog's Pokemon stream as Calzone, and since this is caught in the Hoenn Safari Zone, we're gonna call this guy Calzone. Okay. Right, let's retire it to here. We'll have a quick save. I'm so glad this phase has ended. It's taken like all week just to get to this point. I thought I was only going to find the one this week. So let's move him around. Where is he? He's right here. I can't remember what I guessed last time. It was about a week ago. So I'm going to guess naive for this one. I think that's what I guessed before. He is docile. Nice.
Shiny Manaphy! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh, that's it! Oh, dude, what? That came after 5,132 resets! I was watching I've Pet That Pokemon Safari Week compilation. I just ended stream a few minutes ago. That is so crazy! Oh my gosh, I gotta save! Oh my gosh! Dude, what the heck? I got Manaphy! So this was a janky way of doing it, but like, look, there's the .artist code. If you see my trainer ID, now it's 38779. I'm gonna save the game and I'm gonna change it again to show you like what's going on. So every time we talk to this guy, trainer ID, secret ID randomizes to something else. That's a shiny Manaphy! That is so crazy! What? July 9th, 2024. I've been hunting this since April now. It's gentle. Oh my gosh! It's December now. I'm editing this and I just now realized that I never sent this thing out into battle on camera. So there's a regular Bidoof. And there's our shiny Manaphy. This has been such an insane journey to go through. Another day I will hunt it in a more irrefutably legit way, but not anytime soon. Plenty more shiny videos. I'm glad this one is finally done because I've gone through so much stuff over these past few months that have been preventing me from working on it. And I don't know what I'm going to do with this thing yet, other than just enjoy it in Gen 4. I love the way that it looks back at you in like Platinum and Heart Gold Soul Silver when you send it out. Plenty more Pokemon adventures ahead. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.
This is a completely unmodified version of Pokemon Pearl. However, I have set up arbitrary code execution on this save file. As you have been made aware by now, arbitrary code execution allows you to do pretty much anything. However, there is one limitation to arbitrary code execution, and that is the human element. See, to write a large amount of code, it would take a long time, and you would have to make sure that you make zero mistakes. If only there was a method to execute large amounts of code without having to put in the effort. And that is exactly what this save file comes in for. See, I made a repository called GForce or Gen 4 RCE, which stands for Remote Code Execution. What this code that we just executed did is alter the GTS, so instead of expecting Pokemon data, it now expects code and data to be sent. On my laptop, I can now host this server. Once we have logged in, instead of exchanging the regular data, it will set up a custom communication protocol and exchange code to execute. Any moment now, we should see the data come through and we have logged into the GTS. From this point forward, about 15 packets are being sent back and forth, which includes, well, we'll see in a bit. And there we go. All code has been exchanged and we can now leave the GTS. But what exactly did we just alter? Well, if we just look into our party, we'll see it's not exactly what we would expect from a Noctowl.